Welcome, my friend. I'm Cassian, and this is Chronicles of the Warmaster. Here we tell the whole Horus Heresy saga slowly, book by book. This is episode 5, and if you're catching up, all the earlier episodes are waiting for you on the channel. Tonight, the betrayal stops whispering in the dark and chooses a world where brothers will be asked to die for a truth they cannot yet see. Horus stood over Istvan III and quietly decided which of his own sons he was willing to kill. This is Istvan III, the world Horus turned against his own legion. Lokin, Garrow, and Tarvitz, 3 officers still loyal to the Emperor, don't yet know the fleet above them is deciding whether they live or burn. There is a man standing in the dark aboard a ship called the Vengeful Spirit. He is the largest thing in the room, and the room is very large. Before him, a small world turns in the air, made of cold blue light, Istvan III, a planet that has done nothing remarkable in its long history except be in the wrong place. He is the Warmaster. Horus, Primarch of the Sons of Horus, the most beloved son of the Emperor of mankind, the warrior to whom the conquest of a galaxy was entrusted. And tonight he is doing arithmetic. In his mind, he is sorting the captains of 4 legions into 2 groups, the ones who will follow him into the dark that is coming, and the ones who never will. The second group is the smaller of the 2, and that almost makes it worse, because every name in it belonged, once, to a brother he loved. He finishes the sorting. He does not speak the names aloud. He does not need to. He turns the little blue world a fraction with one clawed hand, the way you might turn a coin over before you spend it. Remember this moment. He has not lifted a weapon. He has not raised his voice. And he has already decided that thousands of his own sons are going to die, and that they will never see his hand do it. Pull back from him. Pull back from the hall, and the ship, and the small turning world in his hand. Out here in the cold, you can see the shape of what he has decided. There is a star. Around the star, a grey planet, Istvan III, and around the planet, something the galaxy has not seen in a very long time. A fleet of fleets. Not 1 legion. 4 of the Emperor's 18 Space Marine legions gathering in the same patch of dark for the same small war. Sons of Horus, the Death Guard, the Emperor's children, the World Eaters, tens of thousands of transhuman warriors, capital ships, strike cruisers, assault carriers, enough firepower in orbit to glass a continent, and they have been called here for what the order papers describe as a routine compliance against a single rebel governor. Nobody is asking out loud, why this many? The captains in those fleets have spent 2 centuries trusting the Warmaster's reasons. Most of them are about to die trusting them. The men aboard those ships are about to be sorted into the trusted and the doomed. To understand the hand doing the sorting, walk back with me, slowly. It begins on Davin, the feverish moon, the Temple of Serpents, the wound that should have killed the Warmaster and instead changed him into something the galaxy did not yet have a word for. He went down into that sickness as the Emperor's most loyal son. He came back up as something else. Since then, the Vengeful Spirit has been a colder ship. The Warmaster smiles less. His twisted Akiri, Malachurst, has drawn the circle of trust tighter and tighter until almost no one stands inside it. And the Warrior Lodge, the secret brotherhood that began as a soldiers' drinking society, has spread through every legion in this fleet like a stain through cloth. It is no longer hiding. That is the hand hovering over the grey world below. 4 legions, 1 small war on the order papers, and a sorting already underway that most of these men will not survive. Watch them arrive. This is worth slowing down for. First, the Vengeful Spirit herself, the Warmaster's flagship, breaking from the warp with lightning crawling along her flanks. Once she wore the bone white of the lunar wolves. Now she is grey and green, refitted in the colours of the Sons of Horus, the great amber eye glaring out from her prow like an open wound. Then the Endurance, flagship of the Death Guard, brutal and ugly, painted in nothing at all because Mortarion, their Primarch, sees decoration as a kind of lie. A single skull on the prow, nothing else. The Death Guard do not need to be beautiful, they need only to endure and to make the enemy stop. Hours later, the Conqueror arrives, blunt and muscular, shimmering blue and white, the flagship of Angron, Primarch of the World Eaters, and as savage and direct as the giant who commands it. And finally, the Andronius, at the head of the Emperor's children fleet, purple and gold, more flying palace than warship, beautiful enough to make you forget that every line of her hides a gun. Her Primarch, Fulgrim, has not come himself. He sends word that he will join soon. For now, his legion answers to a Lord Commander named Eidolon. 4 legions. Tens of thousands of the finest warriors the species has ever made, gathered in one place under one banner. Only one man had ever commanded a force like this before, and that man sits far away on Terra, building a future he believes is safe. These legions do not answer to him tonight. They answer to the Warmaster. Deep inside the vengeful spirit, in a hall full of the legion's old victories, 2 sons of Horus walk and talk in low voices. The first is Gaviel Lokin, captain of the 10th Company. A serious man, a believer in the truth, the kind of soldier who keeps a clear conscience because he checks it daily. The second is Tarik Torgadden, captain of the 2nd, taller, quicker to laugh, the only man aboard who can still make Lokin smile. They were both members of the Mournival, the inner 4 who once advised the Warmaster and guarded the soul of the Legion. They are speaking about murders. A respected officer shot dead with a Legion weapon. Remembrances, the artists and poets who travel with the fleet, going quiet one by one, asking too many questions and then simply ceasing to exist. Torgadden names a poet, Karkasi, who was supposedly a suicide. Both of them know better. The Lodge wanted him silenced. The Lodge got what it wanted. Lokin catches movement among the cabinets. A stranger, bronze-faced, scarred, in the white and blue of the World Eaters. This is Khan, captain of the 8th Assault Company, and equerry to the Primarch Angron himself. They speak the way warriors do, half courtesy and half challenge. Lokin says plainly that the World Eaters are butchers. Khan does not flinch from the word. He agrees. He is proud of it. His Primarch is good at one thing and is not ashamed of it, and so neither is he. And then Khan says something that lands harder than he means it to. Any soldier of the Astartes, if the choice was kill every living thing in a city or lose, would kill the city. We simply say it out loud. The rest of you only pretend you wouldn't. Lokin hopes, quietly, that it never comes to that. Khan smiles and warns him not to lean too hard on that hope. Then he goes, off to rejoin his Primarch, leaving Lokin with a cold feeling he cannot name. The galaxy is changing, Khan agreed. The Crusade is changing with it. And the men who are happiest about that change are not the men Lokin would have chosen. The War Council is held in a new chamber called the Lupercal's Court, a grand throne room built to make the Warmaster look less like a first among brothers and more like a king above subjects. Lokin notices banners he does not recognize hanging on the walls. A throne of skulls. An 8-pointed star, symbols that mean nothing to him and that should have meant nothing to anyone. The Warmaster sits enthroned. At his side stand 2 men, Ezekiel Abaddon, first captain, the giant in glossy black Terminator plate, and Horus Aximand, called Little Horus, in pale green. They look at Lokin and Torgadden with open hostility now. The Mournival, that brotherhood of 4, is dead, and everyone in the room can feel the corpse of it lying there. The Primarchs arrive one by one. First Angron of the World Eaters, vast, blood-red, his face buried in folds of angry scar. Ugly implants jutting from his skull, where slavers once carved him into a killing animal for the fighting pits. He greets the Warmaster like a man checking whether he is being treated as an equal or a servant. Then Eidolon, speaking for the absent Fulgrim, all polished diplomacy and purple and gold. Then Mortarion, Primarch of the Death Guard, pallid and hooded, his ruined lungs hissing grey steam with every breath he takes. And beside Mortarion marches a face Lokin knows and is glad to see Captain Nathaniel Garrow of the Death Guard. A Terran-born warrior with an unbending code of honor, a man who fought beside the sons of Horus back when they were still the Lunar Wolves. Honest, solid. The kind of man you would want at your shoulder. I want you to hold these four faces apart in your mind. Angron, the chained beast, Eidolon, the proud diplomat, Mortarion, the steaming silence. And among them, the good men, Lokin, Torgadon, Garrow. Keep them separate, because the betrayals that are coming will not land all at once. They will land one at a time, and each one needs its own place in your heart. The Warmaster descends from his throne. A glowing globe of Istvan III blooms in the air above him, and he says the only honest thing he will say all night. Remember it well, for history will be made here. The official story is laid out plainly. Istvan III was brought into compliance years ago by the Raven Guard. A governor named Vardus Pralor was left in charge. And now Pral has gone over to something dark, old gods, forbidden music, a religion the Imperium thought it had stamped out. Mortarion plays a distress signal. A woman's terrified face flickers in the air, recorded in a candlelit cellar, gunfire and screaming behind her. She speaks of open revolt, of witches called warsingers, of a madness loose in the city. Then something reaches her, and the recording dissolves into a freeze frame of blood and a screaming open mouth, and goes black. So the plan, as given, is this. The capital, the Coral City, will be taken by storm. The Death Guard will grind down its armies. The Emperor's children and World Eaters will seize the great Precentor's palace, and the sons of Horus will take the religious heart of the place, a fortress of tombs and spires called the Siren Hold. And here is where one question hangs in the air longer than it should. Eidolon asks it. Why bother with all of this? Why landmen at all? Why not simply burn the city from orbit and be done? The Warmaster does not punish him for asking. He answers smoothly that vermin survive a bombardment, that to be sure of the kill you have to get your hands dirty and destroy them all in one stroke. I want you to listen to that answer very carefully and then file it away, because it is the only true thing the Warmaster says about his real plan. He simply lets everyone believe he is talking about the people of Istvan III. He is not. He is talking about his own sons. Angron objects too, in his own way. He wants to simply hit the city with everything and slaughter every soul in it. Kill the people, and the rebellion dies with them, he says. The Warmaster shuts him down, reminds him who commands here, and Angron grudgingly bows his huge red head. The council ends, the Primarchs file out. And when the room is empty, the Warmaster quietly orders a Stormbird made ready so he can visit Angron in private to bring the giant fully into the truth. Lokin and Torgadon are left standing alone in the court they once helped to run. They have just been handed their orders, and they do not yet understand that their orders are a death sentence written for someone else's gain. Now let me show you the thing Lokin cannot yet see, the room beneath the room. Deep in the heart of the vengeful spirit, there is a hidden temple, built in stone to look like a place from a faraway, accursed world. A fire burns in a pit at its center. And waiting in that firelight is a man in deep red armor, his shaved skull covered in tattooed script. This is Erebus, first chaplain of the Word-Bearers. The man who, on Davin, set every piece of this in motion. The Warmaster comes to him in a suit of black armor gifted by the priests of Mars, an amber eye staring from the breast, a gauntlet of long blades hanging from one hand. Erebus says he is ready. The allies he has promised are eager to speak, but a price has to be paid first. The price is a woman. Ingmei Singh, the Warmaster's chief astropath and his best. Erebus says it must be her precisely because she is valued. A sacrifice that costs nothing is no sacrifice at all. The Warmaster takes her chin in one hand, almost gently. He accuses her of betraying him, of sending a secret warning out into the dark, and offers her life if she names the one she warned. She refuses. She knows she is already dead, and she will not buy a few more breaths with another soul. So he drives the bladed gauntlet through her chest and holds her over the fire and lets her blood fall into the flames. Pain and fear and the horror of betrayal flood the little room. And into that Erebus calls. The temperature falls. The fire burns, and yet the room goes dark. A voice that comes from everywhere and nowhere wraps itself around the Warmaster. It names itself Sarkel, a lord of shadows, an emissary of the powers that live in the warp. It offers him everything, power without limit, no army that can stand against him, no door that will not open, no ambition denied. All it asks in return is that the Emperor's work cease, and that Horus take his place. The Warmaster is not impressed by grand words. He demands plain speaking. He even accuses these powers of being the ones who blinded his legion's astropaths, who darkened the warp so the fleet went deaf. The voice does not deny it. It calls it necessity, a darkness that hides their plans, and his, from the Emperor's sight. When Istvan is behind me, you will have your pact, not before. My legions go through that fire alone, so that what comes out the other side is a blade, and the blade is mine. There. Now you understand. Istvan III is not a battle. It is a forge. The Warmaster is going to feed his own sons into it. The loyal ones, the honest ones, the ones who would say no, so that the legions that survive are made entirely of men who will say yes. That is what tempering a blade means. That is the real plan that Get Our Hands Dirty was hiding. The shadow agrees. The cold withdraws. And somewhere on this ship, men named Lokin and Torgadden and Garrow and Tarvitz are checking their weapons and preparing to do their duty, never knowing that their duty is to die. Meanwhile, Lokin is hunting. The old iterator Cinderman, a teacher Lokin trusts more than almost anyone, slipped him a note before he was dragged away by Malachurst's soldiers. The note said something that has gnawed at Lokin ever since, that even the Warmaster may not deserve his trust, that there is a temple aboard this ship, hidden somewhere that was once the heart of the crusade. Lokin finds it, behind a company banner on the old, abandoned strategium, the very place where the Warmaster used to plan the conquest of worlds. There is a passage that should not exist. He smells incense, bitter, hot, familiar. He has smelled it once before, on the cursed moon of Davin. He draws his knife and goes in. Inside is a chapel built for something Lokin does not believe in. Stone benches, skulls hanging from the ceiling with smoke curling from their eyes. An altar with a bowl of dried blood and a book bound in old fire-scarred leather. He opens the cover with the tip of his knife and recognizes the angular script, the same writing tattooed on Erebus's skull. The Book of Lorgar. And then the book reaches into him. A voice he knows speaks in his ear, Torgadden's voice, accusing him of betrayal. He turns, and a thing wearing Torgadden's ruined face stands there, an 8-pointed star carved into its temple. And then the visions come. He sees the galaxy burning, stars dying, bleeding into the dark, a great red eye in the heavens, and from it an endless flood of monsters and warfleets pouring out to drown everything in blood. He sees the sons of Horus among that tide, armored in black, surrounded by leaping deformities. He sees Horus himself as a black giant crushing whole worlds in his fists. This is the future, the voice says, and Lokin refuses it. He claws his mind back. He screams the words of the imperial truth into the dark, that he bows to no spirit, that he believes only in what can be measured and seen. And the visions shatter, and the walls of the little temple slam back into place around him. He is not afraid, he is furious, because he understands now that everything he was taught was a lie. There are powers in the warp, They are real. And his legion is selling the human race to them, one quiet step at a time. He snaps the book shut, locks its clasp, takes it under his arm and walks out, knowing it is his job to silence the music he has just heard. Lokin summons Abaddon to an observation dome and throws the book down at his feet like an accusation. He demands answers. Why was Erebus aboard? Why are honest people being murdered? The officer, the poets, the remembrancers. Abaddon does not even pretend. The remembrancers, he sneers, were lesser people, beneath them, sent by the Council of Terror to choke the Legion's ambitions. The Warmaster has a plan, he says, and that plan is for the good of the Imperium, and Lokin is too proud to make the compromises it requires. They are a breath away from killing one another. But Lokin will not raise his hand against a man who was once his brother. He offers Abaddon a way back. For the Legion, for the Warmaster, there is always a way back, he says, as long as they both want it. Abaddon's answer is a warning instead. Let this rest until Istvan is done. After Istvan, all of it ends one way or another. Lokin hears the threat under the words. He does not yet know exactly what Istvan will end. But he knows that if he stands against them, he will not stand alone, and Abaddon promises, flatly, that everyone who stands with him will die. Before the main world can be touched, the rebels' eyes have to be put out. The monitoring stations on the 7th planet, a frozen, airless rock called Istvan Extremis. And here, at last, I can show you one of the men the Warmaster means to kill, fighting honestly for a cause he still believes is clean. Saul Tarvitz, captain of the Emperor's Children, not one of the favoured, not one of Fulgrim's chosen. A file officer, a man who has spent his whole life trying to be a little better than he was yesterday, who knows his place and works to earn a higher one. He throws himself into the assault on the station with his veterans, Sergeant Fulgarian at his side. The Death Guard hit one approach. Tarvitz's old friend Garrow grinds his men toward the guns the way the Death Guard always do, by simply refusing to stop. The Emperor's Children take the other, moving like pieces on a board, every squad in its perfect place. Eidolon shatters the blast doors with a hammer of blue lightning and charges in first, because that is the privilege of his rank. Inside it is a slaughter of black-armoured cultists, tattooed men with single red lenses for eyes. Tarvitz kills cleanly, the way a warrior of his legion should, every stroke a finished thing. They win the entrance, and then they blow the inner doors, and Tarvitz steps through into the heart of the station and realizes the intelligence was wrong. This is not a comm station, it is a temple. A great stepped pyramid fills the dome, built from blocks stolen out of 100 other buildings, and at its summit, wrapped in light and silk, a woman is singing, a war singer, and her song is a weapon. The music lifts her off the stone. It tears blocks loose and flings them spiraling upward. It catches Astartes, the finest warriors in the galaxy, and pulls them into the air and takes them apart inside their armor. Tarvitz watches the Legion's banner-bearer, Captain Odovokar, lifted screaming, his armor peeling back like paper, his head torn away in a streamer of blood and bone. And the worst of it, the song is beautiful. It promises peace. It promises that all the fighting can simply stop if Tarvitz will only stop with it. He nearly listens. Then Garrow's voice, from where he lies broken on the slope, cuts through. Do not listen to it. Just kill it. Tarvitz drags Garrow back from a sheer drop, his friend's leg severed at the thigh, stone jutting from his chest, and then climbs toward the song. Eidolon is ahead of him, plunging into the shell of light around the warsinger and going down to his knees under the force of her voice. Tarvitz charges in to buy him a single heartbeat. He is swatted to the floor for it. And in that heartbeat, Eidolon does something Tarvitz has never seen any warrior do. He opens his mouth and screams back, a sonic howl of his own, raw and agonizing, with none of the witch's beauty. It smashes her song to pieces. He picks up Tarvitz's fallen broadsword, wades through the noise, and takes her head off with a single sweep. The warsinger falls silent. And Tarvitz, lying there with his ears ringing, asks the only question that matters. How? Where did a space marine learn to do that? Eidolon waves it away. Strength of will, he says. That is all. We won. That is what matters. Tarvitz does not believe him, and a seed of dread is planted that he will not be able to dig out. Back aboard the Andronius, Tarvitz cannot leave it alone. He asks Eidolon how the witch was killed. And Eidolon, instead of an answer, gives him a tour down beneath the apothecarian, behind a hidden door, into a room lit cold and blue. There are cylinders here, tall as the ceiling, full of things that should not be, half-grown bodies that were never born, a head with the faceted eyes of an insect grown there, no scars at all. A mass of brains laced together, swollen with extra lobes like tumours, and bent over a slab of living muscle, an apothecary named Fabius, his white gown streaked with red. Eidolon's voice, his scream, was made here. A surgical alteration. And when Tarvitz protests that the gene seed, the sacred blood of their Primarch, cannot be touched, Fabius laughs at him. Who do you think gave the order, he asks. They offer Tarvitz a place in this, a chance to become more than a line officer, more than the man Fulgrim looked at once and judged ordinary. Eidolon frames it as a gift. Fabius promises to work wonders on his flesh, to bring him closer to perfection. Tarvitz looks at the tanks and the half-things floating in them, and he says no. He calls it what it is, an abomination. And in that one quiet refusal, this ordinary, overlooked captain becomes the most important loyal man in this entire fleet. Because he is now the only one of Fulgrim's officers who has seen behind the curtain and walked away clean. Eidolon lets him go, orders him to speak of it to no one, and Tarvitz leaves that room certain he has just been tested and not at all sure whether passing or failing was the safer thing to do. And then Tarvitz notices the thing that should not be there, the deployment orders for the drop on Istvan III. He knows how the Emperor's children fight in perfect order, every squad placed with care. But these orders are a mess. The units chosen to go down first look like they were picked at random. And there is one pattern hidden inside the randomness. Not one of them belongs to a chapter led by Eidolon's favoured officers. Eidolon himself, who never misses a chance to show off, is staying behind. A man like Eidolon does not give up the front line for nothing. Something is wrong with this drop, and Tarvitz feels it in his gut. So he does something dangerous. He goes to Rylanor, the Ancient of Retes, a hero interred in a dreadnought's hull, a warrior said to be able to see through any lie the moment it is spoken. The banner-bearer Odovokar is dead, Tarvitz says, and someone has to relay Eidolon's orders from the ship to the surface. He asks for that duty. He asks to give up his place in the assault and stay behind. It is a lie of a mission, and a risky one. But Rylanor agrees, and something in the old dreadnought's words makes Tarvitz think the Ancient wanted him to stay aboard all along, that Rylanor smells the same wrongness Tarvitz does. They part with a phrase loaded with more meaning than it should carry. Tarvitz watches the great machine walk away and wonders if he will ever see him again. He has bought himself a place above the battlefield instead of in it. He does not yet know what that place will let him see. But you should remember that he chose it, because it is the only reason any loyal man on Istvan III will get a warning at all. On the vengeful spirit, the sons of Horus assemble for the drop. More than a third of the legion, thousands of warriors filling the embarkation deck. And for one moment, Lokin lets himself forget everything he has learned. Standing here among his brothers ready to fight, this is what he loved. This is what he joined for. He notices, though, that the Warmaster has chosen the assault force squad by squad, not company by company, an odd way to build a spearhead. He does not understand why. Neither does Torgadden. They put it aside because there is a battle to fight, and that is simpler than the rest of it. His oldest friend, Nero Vipus of the Locaster squad, claps him on the shoulder. There is a place for Lokin in his drop pod, and Lokin takes it gladly. And before he goes, Lokin asks one quiet favour of Iacton Cruz, the old captain they call the Half-Herd, a man left behind with no place in the order of battle. "Look after some mortals," Lokin asks him, "an iterator named Cinderman, a remembrancer named Mercedes Ollerton, a woman named Euphrates Keeler. They keep me honest," he says. "They remind me what we are supposed to be." Cruz agrees, gruffly, fondly, and then the order comes, spear tip to your posts. Lokin jogs to the drop pod, and for these last few minutes, he is simply a warrior again, going to a fight that needs to be won. It takes a war, he realizes, to make him feel like a son of Horus once more. And below them waits the Coral City. Let me give you a moment with it before the fire comes, because it deserves one. It is older than the Imperium that came to claim it, a city of gods, where most of the galaxy has been scrubbed clean of gods, a palace like a vast stone flower opening to the sky. Boulevards like green canyons, and rising over all of it, the Siren Hold, a fortress of tomb spires so immense it humbles the mountains behind it, every wall carved with the legends of a world that sang itself into being. The defenders have prepared for a war from the west, where their trenches and guns are dug in. They have armed every citizen. They are ready for an invasion across the open ground. The Warmaster is not coming across the open ground. The first omen is fire in the sky at dawn, falling stars, the sentries think. Then the first drop pod smashes into a trench in a fountain of mud and flame, and the pods crack open, and the Death Guards step out, and the killing begins. At the Great Precentor's palace, the Emperor's children land. And here is Lucius, Tarvitz's brilliant, vain friend, the finest swordsman in the Legion, killing his first foe before his boots have stopped moving. The palace guards wear armor like glass, halberds that spit silver acid fire. And to Lucius's joy, they do not break, they charge. He laughs, and he dances through them, and he leaves a path of ruin behind him, because there is nothing in the galaxy he loves more than this. On the southern face, the World Eaters land at the Temple of the Song, and instead of trained soldiers, they meet a tide. The war singers on the battlements call, and the whole city answers, ordinary people pouring into the streets with whatever they can carry, driven mad by music. Captain Erlen orders the volley, and the front ranks fall, and the tide simply rises over its own dead and keeps coming. He knows at once what this will become. A massacre. And if there is one thing the World Eaters are made for, it is that. And Lokin? Lokin's drop pod hits wrong. It clips a stone projection on the way down and lodges in the high battlements of the Siren Hold, 200 meters up, wedged among the tomb spires. He crawls out into the dawn light to find his men alive but scattered, other pods ricocheting off the towers and falling in showers of broken statuary. His warriors are dying because someone surveyed this ground badly, and there is no one to make pay for it. The Vox is a wreck. Something is drowning it out. He cannot reach Torgadon. He calls into the static anyway, naming a landmark where they should regroup, and then he leads his men down a narrow stair cut into the ancient stone, into the catacombs riddling the fortress wall. Down there it is dark and close, the niches packed with the dead of Istvan, 2 and 3 deep. A flamer throws orange light ahead. Something moves at the edge of it and is gone. They press deeper into a great tomb chamber in the heart of the wall, a black sarcophagus ringed by kneeling figures with chained hands. And this is where I have to leave him. Lokin, deep in the bones of a fortress, leading Ollis men into a fight he was sent to win. Above his head, the fleet that delivered him is doing arithmetic of its own. Remember the man we started with. The Warmaster, alone in the dark, turning a little blue world over in his hand like a coin he meant to spend. Now you know what he is spending. Not a rebel governor, not a heretic city. His own sons, the ones who would have said no. Lokin, fighting through a tomb because he was sent to. Garrow, broken on a frozen rock and proud of it. Tarvitz, who saw the horror in Fabius's tanks and the lie in Eidolon's orders and refused both, and bought himself a perch above the battle without knowing yet what he would see from it. They are all down there now, or going down. Honest men, doing their duty. And the duty was always to die. There is a question still hanging in the air of that command deck, the one Eidolon asked, the one nobody finished. Why not simply burn them from orbit? Hold on to that question. Because somewhere above the Coral City, the answer is being loaded into the bomb bays, and it has not been given yet. That answer is the hinge the whole heresy turns on, the moment Horus stops pretending this war can be won with mercy and starts winning it with annihilation. Next, the unanswered question above the Coral City becomes a sentence, and the first massacre of the Horus Heresy begins. Thank you for staying with me to the end. If this chapter found a place in your thoughts, subscribe, and you'll be here when the next one arrives each week. Leave a like and tell me your favorite moment or your own thoughts in the comments. It helps these old stories find more ears. Until next time, walk wisely and keep the Emperor's light close.